Hello, Father Fred here again today. And we had chapter 37, and Jacob and Rachel finally got to have a child after 10 with Leah and with the servants. Now they have a child, and they name him Joseph. And Joseph is the favorite. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of the others, and that did not sit well with the others. The brothers, they got mad at Joseph. He was taken, and they wound up selling him into slavery in Egypt. And in chapter 39, we're going to take up with that. That was the jump from 37 to 39, and it's going to go back to Joseph. And in the meantime, there's a topic that has nothing to do with the others, but it was just like the New Testament. Those were just stories that were out there. And this person that compiled them, the editor, he wanted to make sure that he got them all in. So it doesn't really fit at all here. It's not anything about Joseph. It's not anything about anything that has to do with what's going on in his life. So today we're going to take an entirely different story. Open your Bibles to chapter 38 of Genesis. Chapter 38. And we're going to just stay in 38. So it's going to be easy today. You won't be jumping back and forth. And sometimes that can get confusing. And so that's a good thing maybe to write down the scriptures, and then when you can have your time to sit there and think about them, because there's something going on so often that we don't realize. Okay, let's look at verse 1. Verse 1 says, about that time, Judah. Now, Judah was a son of Leah. Leah had 4 sons to start with. She had Reuben and Simeon and Levi and Judah. Now, the Lion of Judah, it's called the Lion of Judah. Judah is the line that Jesus is going to come from. And Judah and Levi is the line that the Levitical priests are going to come from. So these are 2 of the most important ones, and they're by the wife that Jacob didn't even want to have, but he got her. And from what I think maybe it tells us that God takes maybe sometimes the lower ones and can make the best out of them. Okay, let's look. This is Judah. This is the son. And Judah is going to be one of the tribes, the 2 tribes that are left all alone whenever the other 10 leave. They're Judah and Benjamin. And Benjamin is the teeny weeny one, but it has Jerusalem in it. And that's the headquarters of it all. That'd be kind of like making Rhode Island the center of the United States. Nobody's threatened by it. And that's why King David chose it, because he knew that nobody would be afraid that one little state's going to take over the whole country. Just like Washington, D.C. Didn't choose Texas. People would be threatened if Texas were the capital of the United States. And some people think it is. So some people think it's a country unto itself. Verse 1 again. About that time, Judah went down away from his brothers and pitched his tent near a certain Adullamite, that's a certain person from a certain area, named Hira. Verse 2. There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite named Shua. That is not a good idea. That is not a good idea. So he's going to have a Canaanite wife, but from those people that are not supposed to amount to anything, Canaanites. Jesus is going to come out of this later on. Verse 2 again. There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite named Shua. He married her and had intercourse with her. So they're going to have some kids. She conceived and bore a son whom she named Er, E-R. That sounds like an error in the United States, a mistake. And it possibly is here. Verse 4. Again she conceived and bore a son, whom she named Onan. Then she bore still another son, whom she named Shelah. Sounds like a girl's name for us. Shelah. She was in Chezib, where she was born. And that's in western Judah. Verse 6. Isn't that something? Judah is in Judah. Verse 6. Judah got a wife named Tamar. for his firstborn son, Er. Not going to work out. He shouldn't have married that Canaanite woman. But Er, Judah's firstborn, greatly offended the Lord, so he took his life. Doesn't say anything about what he did, just that he greatly offended the Lord, and so he took his life. Verse 8, Then Judah said to Onan, Have intercourse with your brother's wife in fulfillment of your duty as brother-in-law, and thus preserve your brother's line. That was their practice. If a boy got married and had no children and died, his brother was to take the wife. You remember in another place, it has 7 different brothers. When I was that 7th brother, I'd be getting out of there. They all died before they had a child. Verse 9. Onan, however, knew that the offspring would not be his. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he wasted his seed on the ground to avoid giving offspring to his brother. So if she had had a child, it would have not really been his, it would have been his brother's. So he spilled his seed on the ground. No. That's a no. What he did greatly offended the Lord, and the Lord took his life too. Now, poor old Judah just has one son left. So he's getting kind of skittish about him marrying up with this girl. He's supposed to marry her, but he keeps putting it off. He's a little uneasy. Verse 11. When Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up. Let him grow up. Because he's just a little guy. For he feared that Shelah might also die like his brothers. I'd be thinking that too. So Tamar went to live in her father's house, away from any men. Verse 12. Time passed, and the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. After Judah completed the period of mourning, he went up to Timnah to those who were shearing his sheep, to company with his friend Hira the Adullamite. Verse 13. Then Tamar was told, Your father-in-law is on the way up to Timnah and to shear his sheep. Now, why is that important? We're going to find out. So she took off her widow's garments. That's Tamar. That's the one that has the 2 husbands that neither one have made it. She took off her widow's garments, covered herself with a shawl, and having wrapped herself, sat down at the entrance of Enaim, which is on the way to Timnah, for she was aware that although Shelah was now grown up, she had not been given to him in marriage. She is concerned now. She's getting older. The son is grown that she's supposed to marry, but Daddy's a little uneasy, and I'm sure the boy would be uneasy also. When Judah saw her, now this is Judah, this is the daddy, her father-in-law. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, since she had covered her face. He didn't know who she was. That's kind of like back with Jacob when he thought he was marrying Rachel, and he wound up with Leah. Now, I don't know how you can do that. If you have a wedding feast, you ought to be able to see who's there. Verse 16. He went over to her at the roadside and said, Come, let me have intercourse with you. Now, Judah is one of the good guys, but the writer does not make his heroes perfect. So he went over to her at the roadside and said, Come, let me have intercourse with you. For he did not realize that she was his daughter-in-law. And she replied, What will you pay me for letting you have intercourse with me? This is just a story that's going along. Verse 17. He answered, I will send you a young goat from the flock. When I think of a young goat, I think of how furry it is. And I think about Esau that was red and furry. You remember that? Back to 17. He answered, I will send you a young goat from the flock. Very well, she said, provided you leave me a pledge until you send it. I don't just trust you. But she's got something else in mind. Verse 18, Judah asked, what pledge should I leave you? She answered, your seal and cord and the staff in your hand are everything that you've got that shows who you are. So he gave them to her and had intercourse with her, and she conceived by him. After she got up and went away, she took off her shawl and put on her widow's garments again. She's got like two different personalities. Verse 19. She got up and went away. Verse 20. Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adullamite, to recover the pledge from the woman, but he did not find her. Of course he's not going to find her. But he did not find her. So he asked the men of that place, where's the prostitute, the one by the roadside in Aim? But they answered, no prostitute has been here. So, something's going on. Verse 22. He went back to Judah and told him, I did not find her, and besides, the men in the place said, no prostitute has been here. Verse 23. Now he's starting to think. He went back to Judah and told him this. And verse 23, let her keep the things, he said. Judah replied, otherwise we will become the laughing stock of all that I did. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you did not find her. So I did everything I could do. So I'm not going to make it known out into the world that, hey, there's a prostitute out there somewhere with my identification. About 3 months later, starting to show now she is. About 3 months later, Judah was told, your daughter-in-law Tamar has acted like a harlot, and now she is pregnant from her harlotry. Judah said, bring her out. Let her be burned. That's a terrible woman. Let her be burned. But, verse 25, but as she was being brought out, she sent word to her father-in-law, it is by the man to whom these things belong that I am pregnant. Then she said, see whose seal and card and staff these are. She's sending them to her father-in-law, to Judah. Judah recognized them. Uh-oh, it's looking bad. Judah recognized them and said, she's in the right rather than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah. She's okay. But so we're not going to burn her. But they never did think about burning him, did they? Just the women. He had no further sexual relations with her. And when the time of her delivery came, there were twins. We get twins a lot of times. It's going to be just like, you remember Jacob and Esau. Esau's the oldest, but when he came out, Jacob had him by the heel. He didn't just get his heel, he got his birthright. He got the promise from his father. The first one is always the loser. He's supposed to get a larger portion, but he always gets moved out by the younger one. Same thing's going to happen here. Maybe. When the time came for delivery, there were twins in her womb. Verse 28. When she was giving birth, one put out his hand. Now, this is an interesting story. One put out his hand, and see what's going to happen. When he puts out his hand, and the midwife took and tied a crimson thread on his hand, so they'll know who he is. But what happened? This one came out first. She had a string there already ready. It's just like we're going to find out who's going to be first. This is a story that storytellers like. But as he withdrew his hand, his brother came out first. So the younger one, the one that sticks his arm out, he's not going to be the son that gets the promise. Neither here nor, remember, Esau was older than Jacob, but Esau lost out. In this one, the one that comes out first, he's going to lose out. But as he withdrew his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." So he was called Perez, because he tricked him. Perez. These are babies coming out of the moon, and they trick. And the last one. Afterward, his brother, who had the crimson thread on his hand, came out, and he was called Sarah. And Sarah means a red light of dawn. And that refers to that red thread. They named him Sarah because of the red thread that they had tied on him. Now, you can see it. These stories are interesting, but this one fits nowhere with what has happened to Joseph in chapter 37 and what's going to happen to Joseph in chapter 39. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in a week or so. God bless.